Have you ever felt like you were giving your all, but still didn't get the attention or respect you deserved? Whether in personal relationships or at work, it's easy to feel overlooked, as if your value goes unnoticed. But what if I told you there are psychological strategies, proven ways, to shift the balance and ensure that others see you as a priority? By applying some simple, yet powerful techniques, you can change how people perceive you and how much they value your presence. These strategies are not about manipulation or playing games, they're about setting boundaries, valuing yourself, and teaching others to do the same. Let's dive into the steps that can help you create stronger, more meaningful connections, and start commanding the respect and attention you truly deserve. 1. Creating the fear of losing you. Ever noticed how people tend to appreciate what they might lose more than what they already have? Think about it. When someone knows they might lose your attention or time, suddenly, you become so much more valuable to them. Have you ever been the person who always showed up, always gave, and never said no? Did you ever feel like, despite your efforts, they didn't truly value you? That's because, when you're always available, your presence starts to feel predictable, even expendable. The trick is, don't let them think you're always going to be there. Step back a little. Pull away emotionally, and stop sharing every little detail of your day. When you create a bit of space between you and the other person, that small distance makes them start to realize, wait. What if I lose them? It makes them reflect on the importance of your presence in their life. But here's the thing, don't go to the extreme. The goal is to create a little mystery, not to push them completely away. If you distance yourself too much, they might give up on you altogether. So, it's a fine line. Just enough space to make them miss you, but not so much that they feel abandoned. It's about playing your cards wisely, making them feel the loss before it actually happens. Imagine this, you're always the one who reaches out first, always the first to say, let's hang out. But one day, you stop. You wait. You give them the opportunity to miss you, to wonder where you've gone. The result? They'll start reaching out more, valuing your time and attention in a way they didn't before. In the end, it's not about playing games or being manipulative, it's about recognizing your worth and showing others that you're not to be taken for granted. When people fear losing you, they'll finally start treating you like the priority you deserve to be. So, ask yourself, are you truly being valued, or are you just always there, waiting to be noticed? The choice is yours. 2. Avoid always being available. Have you ever noticed how the more available you are, the less people seem to appreciate your time? It's like the more you give, the less they take notice. You may have experienced this in relationships, friendships, or even at work, where your constant willingness to be there on demand becomes expected, and your presence loses its value. Here's the thing, when you're always available, you might be sending the message that you're not really a priority. But when you create space, when you're not always at their beck and call, people start to realize how valuable your time really is. The key is not about playing hard to get or being manipulative, it's about maintaining a sense of balance and respect for your own time. When you're not always there, people will begin to value your presence more, because they'll see that you have your own life, your own commitments, and your own priorities. Think about it, have you ever wanted something more when it felt like you couldn't have it whenever you wanted? Whether it's a piece of clothing, a job opportunity, or even someone's attention, the scarcity factor makes it more desirable. The same principle applies to your relationships. When you're always available, you become predictable and, eventually, taken for granted. But when you step back and let them work to get your time, your value rises. Here's an example, let's say someone always expects you to drop everything whenever they call, but you begin to set boundaries and limit your availability. Suddenly, they start to notice that they can't just reach out at any time and get a response. They'll begin to appreciate the moments you do give them, because they'll have to work a little harder to earn them. So, ask yourself, are you always the one making yourself available, no matter what? Are you letting others take your time for granted? The next time someone reaches out, don't always be the first to respond. Create a little space, and let them see that your time is valuable. It's a small change, but it can have a big impact on how people perceive you and the value they place on your presence. 3. Maintain some mystery. Have you ever met someone who just seemed intriguing? There's something about them that draws you in, but you can't quite figure out why. You want to know more, but they're not giving everything away. That air of mystery? It's magnetic. People are naturally curious, and the unknown is often what keeps them coming back for more. So why not use that to your advantage? The key to becoming a priority in someone's life isn't about sharing every little detail about who you are, your past, or your every thought. In fact, the more you reveal, the less they'll feel the need to dig deeper. The mystery is what makes you interesting, what keeps their attention. Think of it like a book that's not fully opened. When you leave some pages unread, they'll want to turn the next one. But it's not about being secretive or hiding your true self. It's about being strategic. Share enough to pique their interest, but don't spill all the beans right away. Let them wonder about you, about your passions, your dreams, and what makes you tick. When they're left with questions, they'll want to figure you out. And when someone is invested in figuring you out, they're much more likely to see you as a priority in their life. Consider this: imagine you're at a party, and someone you barely know starts talking about their entire life story. By the end of the conversation, you might feel like you already know them, and not in a good way. Now, picture the opposite. Someone gives you just enough to keep you intrigued. You leave the conversation with more questions than answers, and suddenly, they're the one on your mind. So, take a step back. Hold on to some of your mystery. Let them wonder. And before you know it, they'll be thinking about you more than you think. It's a subtle yet powerful way to become a priority without even trying too hard. 4. Let them invest in you. Have you ever noticed how much more you value something when you've worked hard for it? Whether it's a project, a relationship, or a goal, the effort you put in gives you a sense of ownership and attachment. The same principle applies to people. When someone invests their time, energy, or emotions into you, they start to see you as something worth prioritizing. Think about it: who values something more, the person who's put in time and effort to earn it, or the person who's just had it handed to them? When you let someone invest in you, you're not only allowing them to make an effort for your attention, but you're also teaching them that your presence is valuable. And that's what makes you a priority in their life. But how do you make this happen without pushing people away? It's about creating opportunities for others to invest in you. Don't always be the one to make plans or initiate contact. Sometimes, step back and let them come to you. Let them put in the work. This doesn't mean playing games or being cold, rather, it's about setting boundaries and making your time feel precious. When they have to wait a little, when they have to earn your attention, they'll realize that you're not just anyone. Consider this: have you ever noticed how people start putting more effort into something they can't have immediately? It could be a friend, a lover, or even a colleague. When something feels hard to get, it becomes more desirable. That's exactly what you're doing when you allow them to invest in you. You're making your presence something they have to work for, and in turn, they'll start to prioritize you more. So, next time, instead of always being available, give them space to miss you. Don't jump to fulfill their every need. Let them put in the effort, and watch how their view of you shifts. By creating opportunities for investment, you're not just asking for attention, you're making yourself someone who deserves it. 5. Prioritize your own needs. Have you ever found yourself constantly putting others first, only to feel drained, unappreciated, or even resentful? It's easy to get caught up in the cycle of trying to please everyone, especially those we care about. But here's the truth: if you're always putting yourself last, you'll end up feeling like you're not a priority in your own life. And if you're not a priority to yourself, how can you expect others to treat you like one? Think about the people you surround yourself with. Are they the kind of people who lift you up, appreciate your time, and respect your boundaries? Or do you find yourself constantly giving more than you receive? The key to being truly valued is to first value yourself. When you prioritize your own needs, you send a clear message to others that your time and energy are precious. This doesn't mean being selfish in a harmful way, but rather setting healthy boundaries. If someone isn't treating you the way you deserve, why continue to invest your time and energy in them? By surrounding yourself with people who genuinely appreciate and respect you, you naturally raise your value in their eyes. It's about creating relationships that are mutual, where both parties give and take equally. Think of it this way: if you were always giving your time and energy to someone who took it for granted, would you feel appreciated? Probably not. But when you make your needs a priority and surround yourself with people who recognize your worth, that's when you begin to feel truly seen and valued. So, ask yourself, are you being kind to yourself by prioritizing your own well-being? Are you surrounding yourself with people who respect you and make you feel important? Remember, you can't pour from an empty cup. By putting yourself first, you're not being selfish, you're simply ensuring that you have the strength and energy to give your best to the people who truly matter. 6. Don't make them the center of your life. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to be drawn to what they can't have? It's that chase mentality. The more someone has to work for something, the more they want it. The same goes for relationships. When you make someone the absolute center of your world, you risk making yourself too available, too predictable. And in doing so, you might unintentionally lessen your own value in their eyes. Imagine this: you're always there, always available, always putting their needs ahead of yours. At first, it might feel good to be needed, but over time, that constant availability can become, well, a little too easy. When someone doesn't have to work for your attention, they start to take it for granted. The mystery, the excitement, the allure. It fades. But here's the secret: keep a little distance. Keep your own life busy, keep your interests and passions alive, and don't make them feel like you're always just waiting around for them. When you're not always at their beck and call, when they can't always count on you to drop everything, they'll start to see your presence as something precious. They'll begin to value you more, because they'll realize that you're not just someone who's always there, you're someone worth working for. Think of a relationship like a delicate dance. If you're always leading, always pushing forward, it becomes exhausting. But when both parties take turns, when there's a bit of space between you, it makes the connection feel more balanced, more meaningful. It's the distance that creates the desire. So, take a step back. Give them the space to miss you, to appreciate your presence, and watch how they begin to prioritize you. So, ask yourself, are you giving too much and expecting too little in return? If you feel like you're not being valued, it might be time to reclaim some of that space. Let your absence create a sense of longing, and see how much more they start to value your presence in their life. 7. Don't make them the center of your life. Have you ever noticed how people seem to chase after what they can't have? It's human nature. The more someone feels like they need to work for something, the more they desire it. So why not use this to your advantage in relationships? If you constantly put someone at the center of your world, always making them your top priority, you risk becoming predictable, even taken for granted. The key is balance. Keep a little distance. Don't make them the center of your universe. When you show that your life is full, that you have your own passions, goals, and commitments, your presence becomes far more valuable. People appreciate what they have to work for. So, let them see that you're not always available, that you have your own life to live, and as a result, they'll start to appreciate your time and attention more. Think of it like this: when you're always there, always giving your time and energy, they don't have to put in much effort to gain your attention. But when you step back a little and show that you have a life beyond them, you make yourself more intriguing. They start to realize that your presence is not guaranteed, and suddenly, they want to make more of an effort to keep you in their world. In relationships, this doesn't mean being distant or cold. It simply means not being overly available. Don't always be the one to initiate plans, to be the first to text, or to constantly reach out. Let them take the first step sometimes. When they make the effort to contact you, they'll begin to see you as someone worth investing in. It's the natural result of making yourself a little less accessible. So ask yourself, are you making yourself too available? Are you always the one reaching out, or are you allowing them to come to you? The truth is, when you give them space to reach out to you, you'll find that they value you much more. 8. Create your own happiness. Have you ever depended on someone else to make you happy, only to find that it never quite works out the way you expect? It's easy to think that another person can fill that gap, but relying on others for your happiness is like trying to fill a cup with a hole in it. Eventually, that neediness can drain you, and others too. True happiness starts from within, and when you create it for yourself, you become magnetic to those around you. Think about the people you're drawn to. Isn't there something undeniably attractive about someone who is content on their own, who isn't constantly seeking validation or approval from others? It's like they radiate confidence, peace, and joy. That's the power of self-sufficiency in happiness. When you learn to find joy within yourself, not only do you become more balanced, but you also become more appealing to others. No one wants to feel like they're the only source of someone else's happiness. It doesn't mean you don't need people, it means you don't need them to fill your emotional void. When you're at peace with yourself, your life becomes richer. You don't have to rely on external factors to feel good, your happiness comes from your own passions, interests, and sense of fulfillment. And when you're fulfilled on your own, people will notice. They'll see you as someone who adds value to their lives, not someone who drains them. Imagine this, you're at a social gathering, and you meet someone who seems genuinely happy and relaxed, not because they're seeking attention, but because they're enjoying themselves. They don't need to rely on anyone else's company to have a good time. That person is magnetic, right? People are naturally drawn to those who have their own happiness figured out. So, take a step back and ask yourself, are you creating your own happiness, or are you waiting for others to bring it to you? When you start making happiness your own, you'll see how much more attractive, peaceful, and fulfilled you become. Happiness is an inside job, and once you own it, people will want to be part of that energy. 9. Be willing to walk away. Have you ever stayed in a situation, whether it's a friendship, a relationship, or a job, because you were afraid to leave, even though you weren't being treated the way you deserve? It's tough, right? The fear of loss, of being alone, or of letting go of something familiar can feel overwhelming. But here's the powerful truth, sometimes, the most empowering thing you can do is walk away. When you do, you send a clear message, not only to the other person, but also to yourself, that you won't tolerate being treated with anything less than respect. Think about it, people will treat you the way you allow them to. If you continue to accept disrespect, neglect, or unreciprocated effort, you're telling them that you're fine with it. But when you're willing to walk away, you're making a stand for your self-worth. You're saying, I value myself too much to stay where I'm not appreciated. That's not being arrogant or selfish. It's about knowing your value and not accepting anything less. Walking away doesn't mean cutting off people at the first sign of trouble. It means recognizing when someone's actions no longer align with your values, when the relationship is no longer healthy, and when staying would only bring you harm. By being willing to walk away, you give yourself the power to create a life filled with the people and experiences that truly support and uplift you. Imagine this. You're in a relationship where you're constantly putting in effort, but the other person never makes the same effort. You've tried talking, you've tried compromising, but nothing changes. Eventually, you realize that walking away is your only option. When you do, it's not a sign of weakness, but a powerful declaration that you respect yourself too much to accept less than what you deserve. So ask yourself, are you staying in a situation because you're afraid of what might happen if you walk away? Are you accepting less than you deserve? The truth is, when you're willing to walk away from what no longer serves you, you're opening up space for something better, something that respects and values who you are. When you take that step, you reclaim your power, and the right people will begin to recognize you as the priority you always were. 10. Keep them guessing. Have you ever felt the magnetic pull of someone who just seemed hard to figure out? The kind of person who doesn't reveal everything at once, leaving you wanting to know more. It's that sense of mystery that makes them intriguing and, ultimately, more desirable. When you're always open, always sharing, people might start to take you for granted, assuming they know everything about you. But when you maintain an air of mystery, you spark curiosity, making your presence more compelling. You don't need to keep major secrets, but you can withhold just enough to keep them interested. For example, when someone asks about your weekend, don't spill all the details right away. Offer up a hint, like, "I had a pretty exciting time, but I'll tell you later," and leave them curious. Let them ask questions. Let them be intrigued by the idea of uncovering more about you over time. People are naturally drawn to what they don't fully understand, so the less you reveal immediately, the more they'll want to learn about you. The key here is not to be cold or distant, but to create a little suspense. When you share everything up front, there's no room for wonder. But when you hold back, even slightly, it encourages them to dig deeper. Over time, they'll come to value those moments when you do open up, as they'll feel like it's something special. That sense of mystery creates emotional depth, and people are often attracted to that. Think about it this way: have you ever been in a conversation where someone just unloads everything about themselves, leaving you with nothing left to ask? It can feel overwhelming and even a bit boring, right? But when someone shares bits and pieces over time, it keeps you engaged. It makes you want to know them better. By holding some cards close to your chest, you encourage others to value your time and attention more because you're not giving it all away right away. So, next time you find yourself in a conversation, ask yourself, are you revealing too much too soon? Try to keep some things to yourself and notice how much more people start to value your presence. When they feel the pull of mystery, they'll start to see you as someone special, someone worth making an effort for. 11. Let them invest emotionally. Have you ever found that when you're the one putting in all the effort, the relationship or connection doesn't seem to go anywhere? It's like you're doing all the work, but they're not doing their part. It can be frustrating. Here's a powerful psychological trick: let them invest emotionally in you. When others make an effort to connect with you, whether it's through time, energy, or even emotions, they begin to value you more deeply because they've had to invest something in the relationship. This doesn't mean playing hard to get or manipulating people. It's about allowing them the space to show that they care. Let them make the first move. Let them put in the effort, whether that means planning an outing or texting first. By letting others invest in you, you make them feel like they've earned a piece of your time and attention, and that naturally increases your value in their eyes. Think about it: who values something more, the person who's worked hard to get it or the person who just got it handed to them? The same applies to relationships. When someone has invested time or emotional energy into you, they will start to value the relationship more. They'll want to nurture it, because they've already put something into it. By allowing this investment to happen, you are subtly teaching them how to prioritize you. For example, if someone always expects you to drop everything and make plans with them, try saying no or making them wait a little longer. Let them put in some effort. When they realize they have to invest a bit of themselves to spend time with you, they'll start to appreciate you more. They won't take you for granted, and you'll become a priority in their life. So, ask yourself, are you always the one making the effort, or are you allowing others to put in the work too? By giving people the chance to invest in you emotionally, you create a deeper bond and make them more likely to prioritize you in the future. Relationships thrive on mutual effort, and when you let them put in that effort, you're teaching them to value you in return. Remember, your worth is not determined by how much you give to others or how much attention you receive. It's about knowing your value and taking steps to ensure that others recognize it too. Whether it's creating a little mystery, allowing others to invest in you, or simply prioritizing your own happiness, each of these strategies will help you build relationships that are healthier, more fulfilling, and, most importantly, mutually respectful. So, take action today. If you found these strategies valuable, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What's one strategy you plan to apply to your life? I'd love to hear from you. Stay tuned for more tips on how to live a more empowered and fulfilling life.